Hey, what's up, good people? It's Jay Ray, the co-host of Q Points, and I wanted to come to you because there are two really important ways that you can support our show. One is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. The other thing that you can do is you can visit us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on Podchaser, and you can leave us a star rating. Please rate us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points. And on Apple Podcasts and on Podchaser, you can actually leave us a written review. It's not required, but it really does help to spread the word about the show, and it helps people to discover it as they're looking for new podcasts to listen to. We're always appreciative of you supporting Q Points. We thank you so much for all that you've done for us so far, and enjoy the show.
Welcome back, Q Points family. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. What's happening, people?
You are in tune to Q Points podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. And Jay Ray, we've got a special treat for our followers, for our listeners and viewers. I feel like, remember when we were kids and they would come in on the television and say, and now for a special programming tonight, share with the Jackson 5, whatever. Well,
Yes.
You've got something even cooler than that. You and I had the opportunity to sit down with two musical composers of the brand new play, The Boy Who Kissed the Sky, which is opening at the Alliance Theater right here in Atlanta. Jerry, I am super excited for our viewers and listeners to check out this interview.
Yo, this was super fun. So what was so dope about this, and when y'all hear it, we got a chance to, of course, talk about rock and roll. We got a chance to talk about Jimi Hendrix. And we got a chance to talk about hip hop. Who knew that all of those things?
Listen, but that's what we do. This is Q Points.
Absolutely.
Expect greatness from Q Points.
Absolutely. So what we want to do is we want to introduce you to our two guests. They are the musical composers for this play, The Boy Who Kissed the Sky. And first, I want to introduce you to Divinity Roxx. Divinity Roxx is a Grammy-nominated American recording artist, composer, musician with 4 solo albums. In addition to her own work, she is well known for touring and performing with Beyoncé Knowles as her bassist and musical director. You have seen Divinity on stage performing with Beyoncé before, so you know who Divinity Roxx is. Also, we have with us Eugene H. Russell IV. He is an Atlanta native, Tennessee State University alumnus, and he's a proud girl dad as well. He's an accomplished musician, composer whose single What If can be found on all streaming platforms. Eugene IV wrote the music for the Alliance Theater's animated films Sit In and Curious Cardinal, as well as their stage production of Beautiful Blackbird. He recently composed the music for Turn Up, a play co-written with his wife for the St. Louis Black Rep. As both a vocalist and saxophonist for countless bands, Eugene has opened for the likes of George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic and Boys to Men. So y'all, get ready,
Listen,
enjoy this.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for you all to check it out. So stay tuned and enjoy the show.
Peace.
So The Boy Who Kissed the Sky is inspired by the early life and influences of musical icon Jimi Hendrix. In the early era of rock and roll music, we see a young boy, black boy, conjure his creativity as a budding guitarist. Guided by the spirit of music itself, the boy learns to find harmony inside the challenging noises of his life. The musical is being performed at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta from April 1st through the 15th. Tickets can be purchased at alliancetheater.org. And we are so grateful to have Eugene Russell IV here. Eugene, what can people expect from this production?
People can expect some good music, some good storytelling, lots of energy. They can expect some rock and roll, some hip hop. They can expect to hear sonically some of the other things that influenced Jimmy as a child. They can expect to have their imaginations stoked and prodded and awakened. Yeah, so they can expect to come um, and receive a little something for everybody in the family, from the adults to the kids to all the in betweens. You know what I'm saying?
I love that. And J. Ray and I were talking about how much we love the fact that this is an intergenerational play that can be
Yeah,
shared with the whole family. Divinity,
yeah.
share with our audience why keeping the memory of Jimi Hendrix and his music alive is important for the Black community.
Well, part of the reason why I believe keeping Jimi Hendrix's legacy alive is because most Black people don't realize that Black people created rock and roll. And
We
Jimi Hendrix is the epitome of rock and roll. He was the biggest and greatest, one of the biggest and greatest guitar players of our time. You know, it's funny because when I really started getting into rock music, one of the things my dad said to me was, we didn't really know who Jimmy was until he died.
mm,
So somebody dropped the ball
Mm-hmm.
uh, in sharing who this incredible talent was. There's also, and we're just going to be honest here about it, there's also been an industry wide sort of boycott of Black people playing rock music. When we had this idea that there was a separation of Black music, race records, and R&B music, the term R&B became synonymous with Black people, and the
hmm
term rock music became synonymous with white people. And that sort of kept Black people out of rock and roll. So we need that history told. We need these young people to know who this man was. We need them to know that the guitar is our instrument, and
yeah.
we are just as as prone, and it's ours. So it should be in our legacy. That's all I have to say.
Yes. Yes. Oh my, speaking to our spirits, because we have had this conversation so many times on Q Points, spending time talking about not just rock and roll, but all the nuances. We've talked about punk and everything on this show,
Yep.
and how
Country.
we country and how that is all us. You know what I'm saying? So thank you, Divinity, so much for bringing that context into this conversation. And so interesting thing. So for me, I discovered Jimi Hendrix when I was in high school. And I was at that point in my life where I was just trying to soak in as much music as I could. And I bought the double album for Electric Ladyland and was like, where in the world did this come from? Right. And this man, this Black man that all of this brilliant sound came from, right? And I was moved by it so much, and it introduced me to so many other things. So when we think about the image of Jimmy, his image in addition to his music, right, is incredibly it's like it's a very well-known image as well, but it's of this kind of outlier, this rock and roller, very much in the vein of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. um so let's take this play, this family play. How does this play either expand upon or recontextualize Jimi Hendrix's legacy, in your opinion?
Yeah,
And either
so
one of
we
y'all
can
can take
tag.
it.
Yeah, so we can tag team this in Divinity. I'll start out by saying that I think it recontextualizes it, or expands upon it by giving the backstory. Um, the the Jimmy that we saw on stage playing and doing what only Jimmy could do uh, was a result of life experiences, and some happiness, some sadness, I won't give it away, but it delves into Jimmy's relationship with his mother, as well as the relationship with his father. So when we tend to see the star persona of people, right? Um, when we see that star part of their personality, we see them on stage, right? We don't know what went into that, right? We don't always get a good idea of, again, what their life experiences are, what the things that fed who they have become are, right? I always believe that even whoever we are on stage, right? It's absolutely inspired by our life influences, right? A lot of people may say, "Oh, you're totally different on stage than you are in real life," but there's a lot of part, and there are undeniable parts of life that inspire that stage expression too. So I think it will allow some people to maybe put some pieces together, or simply to say, "Wow, I didn't know that," and it will. I think it will help explain his uniqueness. It will help explain his passion. And yeah, that's the biggest word I can think of. It'll give backstory that informs and gives a lot of really good context.
Well, first, I just want to say that we are not telling the story of Jimi Hendrix. This play is not autobiographical. It is a reimagination of Jimi Hendrix, and Idris Goodwin has done an incredible job getting into the mind of a creative child who doesn't have everything that an ideal childhood would have, and how music and creativity begins to form that child. This child's imagination is so vast and expansive that I don't want to give it away, but he creates these things that help him cope with his life. And I think that's really important for children to see and experience, because I believe that imagination is one of the most powerful tools we have as children. And I know as a creative person that imagination continues to fuel me as an adult and as a writer, as a performer. So I really think that that's really important. And when we look at somebody as iconic as Jimmy, somebody who did embody all of those star qualities, we get to go back to the essence of that, of what that is, and the birth of that, where that comes from. So yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about the play.
I want to stay there with regards to emboldening children to be creative and to lean into their imagination, and also to go back on something that you said earlier, Divinity, with regards to Black people, the Black community, kind of letting the rock and roll legacy just kind of be co-opted by other people when it's squarely started with us. And I just wanted to, we discussed this, like J Ray said, we discussed how Black people keeping rock and roll alive culture and not throwing it away. But how do we make us fall in love with that again? How do we pass that on to the kids and make them realize that, hey, rock and roll is part of your birthright?
Well, I don't like to say that we threw it away,
Okay.
because I don't believe we did. I believe it was taken away from us. And just like a lot of things, we were made to believe, we were duped into believing that it wasn't ours. And because of that, we started to ignore it. Now, I want to say this because I think it's really important that to know that there is a huge community of
Oh
Black
yeah.
rock and rollers. You know what I mean? So it's like a subgenre in a sense. I know this organization, Black Women Rock, that is filled with Black women who play rock music. Shout out Jessica Care Moore in Detroit. I am one of the Black women rock artists, so I know that there's a huge community of us out there. It's just not in the mainstream, and I think that's where the issue is. It's that the mainstream and mainstream Black America too. Now I will say that we got to take some accountability. We are not pushing and we are not giving that music and that art form the spotlight that it deserves. I do think Little Yachty's record, now I am going to say that, he just discovered, it almost feels like as an artist, he just discovered what rock music is. And when you discover it when you're young and you're creative, you realize there is a freedom in it, in your creativity. You're no longer constrained by things sonically. So we're seeing young people begin to be unconstrained by this R&B title that we've been given, this little, this the black section that we've been given musically. We're starting to
Yeah.
expand, and I think that that's really important to point out. You know,
No, I'm with you. A lot of my answers will start with like the hope of the younger cats, you know. So I think it's important that we share stories with our kids about rock and roll artists and legends. I think it's important as those of us who are either parents or aunties or uncles or caretakers or whatever, teachers, that we share rock and roll with our kids or the young people who are under our care or our supervision. um, that way we can excite them about it. That way we keep it alive every time those songs are played, every time those names are spoken. Uh, and it's building their musical palette to such a degree that they have a taste for it. It builds the next audience of rock and roll consumers. So I think that's where it starts, to be honest with you. And if you'll notice, a lot of what I say isn't dependent upon record labels, because they're different. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
you know, labels don't even have A&R departments anymore. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately,
And
as far as
we
the
can tell.
mainstream goes. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So when we talk about, like Divinity was saying, when it comes to the mainstream, a lot of times I connect mainstream and major record labels. You know what I'm saying? So nothing of what I'm saying is dependent upon them changing their formulas, you know, because let their formulas tell it. Black folk don't listen to that kind of music. Black folk ain't gonna like that. So why market it to them, right? So none of it has anything to do with them. But again, I think it starts with our youth and hipping them to it and exposing them to it. And also as artists, allowing ourselves the freedom to delve into it, right? To express, our rock and roll roots, as some younger cats have done and started to do, and hopefully will do more of.
So, Divinity, you said something earlier that is so important, and we have talked about it amongst artists, so Sir Daniel and I and other creatives, this idea of adults allowing ourselves to imagine and to dream, which life and living can really like just force us into just doing what we're all these things that we're supposed to do, and we forget to just sit and close our eyes and imagine. I am curious for the both of you, um how do you see this play also helping adults to reconnect with the essence of their childhood and that idea of imagination?
well, the play is so beautifully written and so beautifully executed by the cast. You can't help but be inspired by the stories. You can't help but imagine and dive into this story and relate it to your life. Any good story is going to inspire you and make you think about your own life and make you think about the lives of the people around you and how they're all interconnected and intertwined. And I believe that this story is so well executed and so beautifully. I mean, it's this cast is amazing. Everybody's going to be able to find somebody in that cast that they can relate to. And I believe that it starts there, where adults will begin to think about what it means to dream, what it means to reimagine, what it means to imagine, and think about the kids that they may be sitting there with and how important it is for those kids to be exposed to so many different types of music, so many different types of things, that so that they can begin to imagine no matter what their circumstances are. Because when you look at this play, this little boy didn't have a lot at all. He had very minimal. Him and his dad grew up in a boarding house. They moved from house to house to house. But what they did have was imagination and love. And I think a lot of times that's how our community thrives, and they'll be able to relate to that.
I love that. Gonna do a slight pivot because we're talking. It's funny you brought up imagination and giving ourselves permission to reimagine ourselves at different stages of our life. And Q Points, the podcast, we've been celebrating along with the rest of the world the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And J Ray, I don't know if you know this, but we're in the presence of Atlanta hip hop royalty. And I don't know if you're familiar with a group called Dat Boo, because I've been in Atlanta since '90. So
Okay, so you know what's up.
I know my Atlanta history. I know my Atlanta history, my Atlanta hip hop history. And Divinity, I can't let this opportunity go by and not like just talk to you about like your place in hip hop history here in Atlanta, because I'm thinking back to the J Ray, the days of the Apache Cafe, the Roti Hut, Variety Playhouse, you know, all these places that I have seen Dat Boo in action. So Divinity, please, let's talk about your your place in hip hop history, especially here in Atlanta, if you don't mind just sharing a couple memories.
Oh, man, come on, man. You know, Atlanta's where I cut my teeth as a hip hop artist. You know, it's funny. I'm actually doing a one-woman show at Crossroads Theater in New Jersey right now. It's opening May 27th through June 4th. And I'm telling a lot of my story. And of course, this part of my story is very prevalent in the play because it is the genesis of me becoming Divinity Roxx and becoming this artist. So I remember our very first show at the Point in Little 5 Points. We opened up for J. Rue the Damager at that show. DJ Kimmett was our DJ, and it was the Vagabond and Freddie Luster. They were bringing hip hop artists to Atlanta, and that was our trial for us to jump up on stage and open for J. Rue the Damager. And that's how Dat Boo started opening up for all the shows.
I mean, somebody really needs to dive into like Atlanta hip hop history because it's not just one thing.
Right.
There was that time where we were going to do ciphers at Earwax, the record store.
Bruh.
Then
yes, they used to clear out Earwax once a month and pour baby powder on the floor, and we would go in and dance all night long, man. I mean, Atlanta back then was crazy because you could go from seeing Wild Peach and Tommy Martin and his band. Wow. They were playing, and then you could go hear some hip hop music, and then there was 100 Monkeys, 227 Mitchell Street with the hip hop mixed with techno music. I mean, it was wild back in the day.
You know what I love about this conversation, and I think it ties in so well to this particular play, The Boy Who Kissed the Sky, is just all of the joy and memories that just came up from all of this conversation that we just had, and how I can't wait to hear what young people's reactions to this play are, because it's going to implant memories for them. About the time when maybe some of them discovered rock and roll, and I'm so excited about that. So, quick question for y'all as we wind down: what, for each of you, is your favorite Hendrix song that's kind of been reinterpreted for this performance? Well, what's one of your favorites for each one of you?
I'll go with the most recent one because Divinity and I have been sitting with this music for at least a couple of years, right? So I'll go with the recent influence, Straight Ahead from the Cry of Love album. The groove of that thing was a very natural springboard for one of the ideas that served as one of the newer musical elements from the show. So you come see it at the Alliance, you'll hear a new piece that we put in one of the final numbers. I won't give it away too much, but Jimmy's Straight Ahead, that's the album with Freedom and all of that stuff. But that joint, that was I heard that and I shouted to Divinity. I was like, yo, that's the vibe. That's the vibe, for the final tune or a section of the final. That's mine.
Ah, that's so dope. And that's one of my favorite albums actually. There are a couple of tunes. Now, I will say that this play, the music it's like a mashup between Jimmy's style and hip hop. So I wouldn't say that we reimagined Jimmy's music. We sort of used his music as an inspiration, and we took our musical influences and threw them in, like a lot of them in there. And I've played so many Jimi Hendrix tunes with so many different bands. One of my favorites is Freedom. That's one of my favorites to play. And one of my favorites in the play that was really a good inspiration was, I believe it's called Little Wing. It's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful
Yes.
moment in the play. There's a really beautiful story that it's underscoring. And every time it happens, I do feel this, I can feel it in my heart, that moment. And there are lots of moments like that in the play that are going to pull at your heartstrings.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Divinity touched on it. I just wanted to clarify. Yeah, it's all original music. So Jimi Hendrix's music was the inspiration, but it's all original tunes. Divinity Roxx and Eugene the Fourth stuff. With the Idris Goodwin on lyrics, tripping. Yeah, Idris got some bars. You hear us out there, Idris? We got you.
Will this original music be available at some point for all of us to consume?
Absolutely, we're working on it right now.
For real.
Awesome.
Yeah, we just in the studio a couple of days ago. So yeah, it's in the works.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I know for sure that I'm coming out to see this because I live here in Atlanta. So I'll definitely be at the Alliance Theater. You too, if you are in the Atlanta area, can join us in Atlanta, April 1st through April 15th. Tickets are available for purchase at thealliancetheater.org for The Boy Who Kissed the Sky. And I am just thrilled to have had this opportunity to meet with Eugene H. Russell IV and Divinity Roxx to chop it up about this awesome play. Oh man, J. Ray, I'm just excited.
Listen, I am as well. Thank you both so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here on Q Points. And I might have to slip into Atlanta and check out this place. So
gotta come through.
Yeah. So Q Points might be in the house. Thank y'all so much, y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for having me.